Alright, this begins Chapter 3, Lesson 8, dealing with dividing decimals by whole numbers. Before we get into that, let's see, what do you remember from the previous lesson? So what is the product of 9 and 46 hundredths times 3 and 15 hundredths? Is the answer A, B, C, or D? Now at this point I expect you to pause the video and actually solve these out, because I can't really imagine that you can get this all done in your head. And your answer is C. Now find 7 and 1/100th times 4 and 68 hundredths. Is the answer A, 28 and 98 hundredths, B, 32 and 788 thousandths, C, 32 and 76 hundredths, or D, 32 and 8,068 10,000ths? And your answer is? So now evaluate the expression 10 and 54 hundredths times y is equal to, if y is equal to 3 and 92 hundredths. So in other words, you're just multiplying those two quantities together. Is the answer A, B, C, or D? And your answer is A. So now we're going to evaluate the expression 2x plus 8 and 16 hundredths if x is equal to 1 and 25 hundredths. Is the answer A, 10 and 6 hundredths, B, 10 and 66 hundredths, C, 11 and 6 hundredths, or D, 16 and 66 hundredths? A lot to say. And your answer is B. So now a sprinkler can water 4.5 square feet of lawn per second. How many square feet of lawn can it water in 7.25 seconds? Is the answer A, 28 and 30 hundredths, B, 28 and 75 hundredths, C, 32 and 625 thousandths, or D, 32 and 75 hundredths? And your answer is C. And a great way to look at this is that you've got 3 decimal places in your multiplying, so chances are your answer is going to have 3 decimal places. So now what is the area of a rectangular garden that measures 9.5 feet by 8 and 2/10 feet? So just make sure you're multiplying to find area, it's length times width. So is the answer A, 17 and 7 feet squared, B, 34 and 4/10 feet squared, C, 73 and 9/10 feet squared, or D, 77 and 9/10 feet squared? And your answer is D. Alright, so now today we're going to divide decimals by whole numbers. So we're going to divide 49 and 9/10 divided by 3. So first thing we're going to do is estimate. It kind of gives us an answer of what our quotient is going to be. So I go through the algorithm, and I just divide like I'm dividing with whole numbers. And then I just make sure that I place the decimal point directly above the decimal point in the dividend. So now, when I compare my quotient to my estimate, it is reasonable. So now find 50 and 8/10 divided by 4. Is the answer A, 10 and 2/10, B, 12 and 7/10, C, 102, or D, 127? And your answer is B. So now we're going to divide a decimal by a 2-digit number. So we're going to find 8 and 69 hundredths divided by 22. When I do my estimate, it's going to be a small number, less than 1. So now I go through and I divide this. I'm just going to divide like I am dividing whole numbers. I might have to annex in a 0 because I'm going to keep going until I come up with a 0. And we're not going to deal with remainders. No more remainders. You're in 6th grade. Remainders are a thing of the past unless you're going to write them as fractions, which we are not in this case. And so you just keep dividing until you get 0 for a remainder. And when we compare our answer to the estimate, we know that our quotient is reasonable. Alright, so now this one you're not going to be able to just do in your head. You're going to probably have to pause the video and solve it out. But find the quotient of 8 and 64 hundredths divided by 24. Is it A, 36 thousandths, B, 36 hundredths, C, 43 hundredths, or D, 4 and 31 hundredths? And your answer is B. Now we're going to do some rounding. During a science experiment, Nita measured the mass of 4 unknown samples. Her data table is shown below. What is the mean mass in grams of the 4 samples? So now what we're going to do is we're going to find the mean mass. We're going to have to add those total masses and divide by 4. Divide it out. So the mean mass of the 4 samples is 6 and 11 grams. So now Mrs. Lindley's class is having a pizza party. The total cost of the pizza to be divided equally among 15 people. If the cost is $45.60, find the cost each person will pay. So in other words, take that total amount and divide it by 15. Are they going to pay $3.04? B, $4.56, C, $22.80, and D, $45.60. Hopefully you're looking at C and D going, those are ridiculous answers. That doesn't even make sense. So really, is it A or is it B? So pause the video, divide it out, see what you come up with an answer. And your answer is A. And